novel by Greene. This was published in 1966. The Comedians. It is about three men in particular. Mr. Smith, the presidential candidate, Major Jones, or he calls himself Major Jones, and the story is told by Mr. Brown. And Mr. Jones is in prison, and the presidential candidate, Mr. Smith, is trying to get him out. We are here in the second part of the book, and it is chapter 5, and it's Roman 3. The long, long day was not yet over. Midnight was an hour on age away. I took my car and drove along the edge of the sea, the road pitted with holes. There were very few people about. Perhaps they had not realized the curfew was raised, or they feared a trap. This place on Haiti, in Port-au-Prince. On my right hand were a line of wooden huts in little fenced sources of earth, where a few palm trees grew and slithers of water gleamed between the scrap iron on a pump. An occasional candle burned over a little group, bowed above their rum like mourners over a coffin. Sometimes there were furtive sounds of music. An old man danced in the middle of the road. I had to brake my car to a standstill. He came and giggled at me through the glass. At least there was one man in Port-au-Prince that night who was not afraid. I couldn't make out the meaning of this patois, and I drove on. It was 2 years or more since I had been to Mère Catherine's, but tonight I needed her services. My impotence lay in my body like a curse which is needed a witch to raise. I thought of the girl on East 56th Street, and when reluctantly I thought of Martha, I whipped up my anger. If she had made love to me when I had wanted her, this would not be happening. Just before Mère Catherine's, the road branched. The tarmac, if you could call it tarmac, came to an abrupt end. Money had run out, or someone hadn't received his cut. To the left was the main southern highway, almost impassable except by jeep. I was surprised to find a roadblock there, for no one expected invasion from the south. I stood while they searched me more carefully than usual under a great placard which announced USA Haitian Joint 5-Year Plan, Great Southern Highway. But the Americans had left, and nothing remained of all the 5-year plan but the notice board. Over the stagnant pools, the channels in the road, the rocks and the carcass of a dredger which nobody had bothered to rescue from the mud. After they let me go, I took the right fork and arrived at Mère Catherine's compound. All was so quiet, I wondered whether it was worth my while to leave the car. A long, low hut, like a stable divided into stalls, was the quarter here for love. I could see a light burning in the main building, where Mère Catherine received her guests and served them drinks. But there was no sound of music and dancing. For a moment, fidelity became a temptation, and I wanted to drive away. But I had carried my malady too far along the rough road to be put off now, and I moved cautiously across the dark compound towards the light, hating myself all the way. I had foolishly turned the car against the wall of the hut, so that I was in darkness, and almost at once I stumbled against a jeep, standing lightless. A man slept at the wheel. Again I nearly turned and went, for there were a few jeeps in Port-au-Prince which were not owned by the Tonton Macoute, and if the Tonton Macoute were making a night of it, with Mère Catherine's girls, there would be no more room for outside custom. But I was obstinate in my self-hatred, and I went on. Mère Catherine heard me stumbling and came to meet me on the threshold, holding up an old oil lamp. She had the face of a kind nanny in a film of the deep south, and a tiny, delicate body, which must once have been beautiful. Her face didn't belie her nature, for she was the kindest woman I knew in Port-au-Prince. She pretended that her girls came from good families, and she was only helping them to earn a little pin money. And you could almost believe her, for she had taught them perfect manners in public. Till they reached the stalls, her customers too had to behave with decorum, and to watch the couples dance, you would almost have believed it to be an end-of-term celebration at a convent school. On one occasion, 3 years before, I had seen her go in to rescue a girl from some brutality. I was drinking a glass of rum and I heard a scream from what we called the stable. But before I could decide what to do, Mère Catherine had taken a hatchet from the kitchen and sailed out like the little Revanche, prepared to take on a fleet. Her opponent was armed with a knife. He was twice her size and he was drunk with rum. He must have had a flask in his hip pocket, for Mère Catherine would never have allowed him to go outside with a girl in that condition. He turned and fled at her approach, and later, when I left, I saw her through the windows of the kitchen, with the girl upon her knees, crooning to her as though she were a child, in a patois which I couldn't understand, and the girl slept against the little bony shoulder. Mère Catherine whispered a warning to me. The tontons are here. All the girls taken? No, but the girl you like is busy. I hadn't been here for 2 years, but she remembered. And what was even more remarkable, the girl was with her still. She would be close on 18 by now. I hadn't expected to find her, and yet I was disappointed. In age, one prefers old friends even in a bordel. Are they in a dangerous mood? I asked her. I don't think so. They're looking after someone important. He's out with Tintin now. I nearly went away, but my grudge against Martha worked like an infection. I'll come in, I said. I'm thirsty. Give me a rum and Coke. There's no more Coke. I had forgotten that American aid was over. Rum and soda then. I have a few bottles of 7-Up left. All right, 7-Up. At the door of the salle, a tonton Macoute was asleep on a chair. His sunglasses had fallen into his lap, and he looked quite harmless. The flies of his grey flannel trousers gaped from a lost button. Inside, there was complete silence. Through the open door, I saw a group of 4 girls dressed in white muslin with balloon skirts. They were sucking orangeade through straws, not speaking. One of them took her empty glass and moved away, walking beautifully. The muslin swaying like a little bronze by Degas. No customers at all? They all left when the tonton Macoute came. I went in, and there, at a table by the wall, with his eyes fixed on me, as though I had never once escaped from them, was the tonton Macoute I had seen in the police station, who had smashed the window of the hearse to get out the coffin of the ancien ministre. His soft head lay on a chair, and he wore a striped bow tie. I bowed to him and started towards another table. I was scared of him, and I wondered whom it could be more important than this arrogant officer that Tintin was consoling now. I hoped for her sake he was not a worse man as well. The officer said, "I seem to see you everywhere." I tried to be inconspicuous. "What do you want here tonight?" "A rum and a 7-Up. He said to Mère Catherine, who was bringing in my drink upon a tray. "You said you had no 7-Up. I noticed that there was an empty soda bottle on the tray beside my glass. The tonton Macoute took my drink and tasted it. 7-Up it is. You can bring this man a rum and soda. We need all the 7-Up you have left for my friend when he returns. It's so dark in the bar, the bottles must have got mixed. You must learn to distinguish between your important customers and," he hesitated and decided to be reasonably polite, "the less important. You can sit down," he said to me. I turned away. "You can sit down here, sit down." I obeyed. He said, "You were stopped at the crossroads and searched." "Yes." "And at the door here?" "You were stopped at the door?" "By Mère Catherine." "Yes." "By one of my men?" "He was asleep." "Asleep?" "Yes." I had no hesitation in telling tales. Let the tonton Macoute destroy themselves. I was surprised when he said nothing and made no move toward the door. He only stared blankly through me with his black opaque lenses. He had decided something, but he would not let me know his decision. Mère Catherine brought me in my drink. I tasted it. The rum was still mixed with 7-Up. She was a brave woman. I said, "You seem to be taking a lot of precautions tonight." "I'm in charge of a very important foreigner. I have to take precautions for his security. He asked to come here." "Is he safe with little Tintin? Or do you keep a guard in the bedroom, Captain? Or is it Commandant?" "My name is Captain Concasseur. You have a sense of humor. I appreciate humor. I'm in favor of jokes. They have political value. Jokes are a release for the cowardly and the impotent." "You said an important foreigner, Captain. This morning I had the impression that you didn't like foreigners." "My personal view of every white man is very low. I admit I am offended by the color, which reminds me of turd. But we accept some of you, if you are useful to the state." "You mean to the doctor?" With a very small inflection of irony, he quoted, "Je suis le drapeau Haitian, uni et indivisible." He took a drink of rum. Of course, some white men are more tolerable than others. At least the French have a common culture with us. I admire the general. The president has written to him offering to join la communauté européenne. Has he received a reply? These things take time. There are conditions which we have to discuss. We understand diplomacy. We don't blunder like the Americans and the British. I was haunted by the name Concasseur. Somewhere I had heard it before. The first syllable suited him well, and perhaps the whole name, with its suggestion of destructive power, had been adopted, like that of Stalin and Hitler. So I make a break here in this chapter and continue it very soon. It's the 23rd of September.